Hello and welcome back to the channel. So in this video I'll be going through my training week again as I build running fitness over the winter months ahead of race goals next year. So we'll discuss my training week. We'll also discuss running in these cold, tough conditions. So before I go through this week's training, I'll go through what I wanted to achieve from this week. So at the end of last week's video I said that ideally at the moment I want to be running 2 sessions a week with a long run at the weekend and a rough mileage target of somewhere between 60 and 70 miles at the moment, which is probably on the high side of what I've done in the past, but it's something I want to aim to increase my mileage and see how that takes me on in the marathon later in the year. So where am I against that target? So it wasn't a great start to the week. I was feeling after that long run on Sunday that I needed a bit of time off, so I'd run probably about 10 days consecutively up until then, and just came at the time when I needed a day off. And I don't really like doing this on a Monday because for motivation purposes, if I don't run on a Monday it leaves me sort of low on mileage for a week, and I'm finding that I end up trying to catch it up, which I probably have done this week. So I didn't run Monday, took that as a complete rest day. And then on Tuesday, still sort of feeling, I don't know, a little bit run down, a little bit tired. I'd gone in the office that day too, got back and it was late by the time I got out for my run, and I only managed about 3.5 miles of easy running on Tuesday night. So did sort of feel a bit demotivated to start the week, but I was on a bit of low mileage, and then we got this cold snap coming in later in the week. So sort of, I don't know, think, well, where are my miles going to come from? I still want to do a session, and I really just opted to go with just getting out and running. So Wednesday, that was a bit of a longer run. I went out for 90 minutes on Wednesday at an easy pace, and I got out for 2 runs on Thursday. So the only chance really up until the weekend that I've had a chance to go out in the light was a lunchtime run on Thursday, just a short 3.5 miles. And I also got out in the evening of about 8 miles on an easy run. So I got to Thursday and I've still just done easy running and no sessions yet. So this left me a bit of a dilemma, as I do want to push and do parkrun on Saturday as one of my sessions, like a tempo session as I've been doing. But I also wanted to get out and try and get my midweek session in as well. So a bit of a compromise that I think worked quite well this week was that I joined Steve for his progression run. So I'd rank this as more of like a moderate run, whereas I'd rank a session as a harder run in terms of my training intensity. So this was good to get out, do 6.5 miles, and about 30 minutes of that was progressing down to, I did end up at nearly the pace that I was doing tempo at for parkrun. So that's quite a good session, that moderate one on Friday, and then it led me to parkrun on Saturday. So this morning's run was parkrun, and it's the first time I've managed to get the GoPro out this week. So a lot of my runs have been in the dark, and the only run I did in the light was a run in the ice and with a dog, so I didn't want to have too many moving parts in one go and try and film this vlog then. So Saturday's run, the parkrun, did 3 miles down there. Very cold this morning, it was sort of -5 when I woke up, wrapped up fairly warm and got down to parkrun. A little bit of a wait before we started, and managed to, it seemed a little bit warmer on the trail rather than the run down, which seems strange for some reason. But yeah, the parkrun decided to set off a little bit steadier as it was a bit icy. So set off and did that first mile in about 6:45. Mile 2 was the same again. I still wanted to take it steady. I knew that there was be a lot of ice out on the course, so it was probably the worst mile for ice, and this was slightly slower than that first mile. But I still felt that I gave it good effort, and I felt fresh going into the last mile. So mile 3 of the parkrun, I was able to progress it down and do my quickest mile for that last mile was about 6:24, which I'm usually sort of fading by the end, so it was nice to do it in the opposite way round, and I finished in 20:22 for parkrun, which I really wanted to get under 20, and I think if conditions would have been clear today without the ice, probably would have gone for it and done it. but it's a good solid run, and I was only 5 seconds slower than last week's park run, so yeah, pretty pleased with that. A good session. I did want to now give my thoughts on how best to adapt your training in this weather. So I think that if the weather and the conditions on the ground is similar to like where I'm walking around today, and it's been like this for the past sort of 3 days here, I think it's okay to go out, be very safe over the icy patches, and just very careful, and try and do an easy run on this. I'm quite comfortable to do an easy run, but I want to ensure that I'm doing it well lit, so that you don't miss any patches of sort of black ice on there. And I think if you're sensible, go out and do an easy run if you feel comfortable. And that's sort of been my method this week, that most of my running has been easy. I think that you could progress onto a bit of a tempo session, possibly even some intervals. I know people have been to do hill sessions this week too. So if you can pick somewhere that the underfoot conditions are fine, you're not going to slip and you're not going to be in any danger, then yeah, by all means go out and do your session. I know that treadmill's an alternative to some people. I've got them at home, we've got a gym membership. I unfortunately don't have either, and I don't really like running on a treadmill, to be honest with you, so that was a no for me. But you could go on and get your session done, or an easy run done on the treadmill. And I just don't think that if you're doing anything that involves any turning, so if you're going around corners on a twisty route, if you're running in the dark, I'd say definitely not run in this weather. So just not worth taking the risk, and that's been my attitude this week, that there are some risks to take, but not with your health and not with running. And there's really not much upside to maybe trying to squeeze an extra session or two in. You're not going to lose that much fitness, and we don't get weeks like this very often in the year in the UK. Probably only go about 2 or 3 weeks a year like this, and you can just adapt and yeah, chill out for a bit and be sensible. So if you're in the UK and have had obviously the same or probably worse conditions, I know further up north it's certainly been colder, do let me know in the comments how you've adapted your training this week and how you've got on. I'll talk a little bit about dressing for the conditions as well. So it is always important that you don't get too cold in this weather. So I'm generally pretty warm anyway when I run. I sweat quite a lot. It doesn't take much for me to get warm, and in these conditions I found that as long as I wear sort of a t-shirt and then a long sleeve over the top, I've been sort of warm enough. Still in shorts as well, though leggings maybe would have been a bit warmer, but I've been noticing it sort of on the extremities, so making sure that I go out with gloves, a woolly hat on that covers my ears because I was a bit cold this morning at the park run. And yeah, just being sensible really, and not overdoing it, not wearing like running in a big coat like this, because you'll just get too warm, your sweat will dry and then you'll just feel even colder. So yeah, just being sensible with what you're wearing. And the plan for Sunday's run, so I want to get a long run in like last week. I want to try for 15 miles, so should be able to get that distance this week. I think the weather, although it is cold, I don't think we've got any rain or wind or whatever we had last week, which the snow and the slush made it a bit hard and a bit miserable conditions to run in. So I'm hoping for a bit better this week, and we'll get out and get 15 miles in. Will take me up to 58 miles a week, so I'll be pleased with that total. So Sunday's run was a 15-mile steady long run, which I did with Steve and Robbie. So this was at around 7:20 pace, which was a little bit sharper than what I'd done in previous weeks. So I built up from around 10 miles, 12 miles, 13 miles last week, and these were all run at over 7:30 pace. So a little bit of an increase of the pace and an increase of the distance this week. So the conditions underfoot were still a little bit slippy, but a lot better than on Saturday. And this helped obviously run a bit quicker. I did find that I was struggling towards the last 3 miles of a run, so I did notice at about 12 or 13 miles that the last couple of miles I was finding it harder to hit that pace that the other lads were pushing. So I was quite pleased with that run. If I keep pushing myself a little bit harder, I will find these paces a bit easier. And like I've said in previous videos, I want to try and run that long run a bit quicker each week. I don't want to be going out and plodding at my easy run pace. I want to be running at a steady pace for the long run so that I've not got too much time on my feet. And to summarise the whole week in terms of training, bad start to the week, obviously Monday and Tuesday, didn't really get out much, but I've hit 5 good days since then, so a couple of double days to increase the mileage. I feel relatively fresh, not like last week where I probably overdid it last week, which then led me to be a bit tired come Monday and Tuesday this week. So I've still hit a good tempo session at parkrun, I was pleased with that, and a progression session. So I'd say about 1.5 sessions plus my long run, which I guess is a session in itself. So it's been a very solid week. Slightly short of missing an interval or a hill session this week, but with my next week I'll be going out to Torrevieja and enjoying the sunshine there, so we have plenty of chances to get some interval running and get tempo runs in. Don't know about hills so much, it's fairly flat around there, but the extra track work will be obviously welcome to my training, so I'm just going to enjoy myself out there, do as much training as I can, not overdo it, get a bit of swimming in there as well in between to try and help the recovery. It would just be nice to be off work and just focus on my running and enjoy that for a bit. So obviously next week's video should have quite a lot more content in it. I've struggled to get out in the light and film in the UK with the weather being as it is at the moment, but we are getting lighter nights when I get back as well. So hoping that we'll get more content in the light, and looking forward to next week's video, which will be out in Torrevieja, which will culminate in the Santa Pola half marathon on the Sunday. So stay tuned to find out how I get on with the training week and how that half marathon goes.